syncing the audio. Alrighty, so you guys can hear me really well now. That's awesome. We're here at, what's this lake called? We're here at Greenfield Lake, and we're documenting some duckweed right now. This is a pond in my local hometown. I've got my project here. We're gonna talk about some duckweed. I think let's walk this way. Yeah, you're right. My feet are sinking. This is so bad. Okay, so duckweed is more commonly known as a nuisance in most places, as it is here. Greenfield Lake has typically been infested with this stuff. This is why I knew that there would be duckweed here. It used to cover this entire lake, and I mean, this lake is massive. And it just grows exponentially here in the climate. There's alligators here as well. Logan, no way. No way. Your foot is soaked. I hope I get an A on this. Come on, we gotta keep trudging. We can't turn back now. Duckweed is a pest. It's a nuisance in a lot of areas. So are thorns. So this plant has the ability to double its biomass in 24 hours. As you can see, they've developed this sort of barrier right here, this perfectly straight line, trying to keep the duckweed at bay. Complete failure. So this plant can grow so fast that sometimes it begins to limit the gas exchange between the actual water and the air itself. So it cuts off the air exchange, which then kills all of the plants, fish, and anything that lives underneath this water. Although it may be a little bit dangerous in that sense, this is also what makes it a groundbreaking renewable. It's really, really cold right now, so the duckweed's growth rate has been slowed, but it can grow just about anywhere. If the water isn't frozen, it will continue to flourish until something begins to eat it, or it completely takes over the pond. Castor oil and switchgrass have previously been used as a source of green energy, but duckweed surpasses both of these in efficiency, growth rate, energy availability per square acre. Uses for this plant date back before recorded history. Many places in Southeast Asia use it as a staple in their diet. They refer to it as kai nam, or vegetable meatball. Though lemna seemingly requires a large amount of space and water to grow upon, if you were to scoop, look at that egret. If you were going to eat this duckweed, which I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible if you cleaned it properly. If you took all of this off of the surface of the water, 98% of the water contained in the plant is recycled back to the growing system. The majority of that 2% is only lost to evaporation. So lemna is not only the fastest growing plant in the world, but the least water requisite crop on Earth, generating 5 times higher yield than conventional land-grown crops like corn or soybeans. Duckweed is also incredibly nutrient dense. So this duckweed here is more nutrient dense than salad. A study out of Pennsylvania University concluded that piglets whose diet had been replaced with 60% duckweed saw similar or greater growth. Vegans, vegetarians, and bodybuilders have even begun using it in their protein powders and stuff. Duckweed and its 14 other counterpart species in the subspecies Lemnoideae is found everywhere on Earth excluding Antarctica. Some species have even been found as far up as Canada and Russia. Like I said previously, if the water isn't frozen, there's really nothing standing in the way of this stuff other than an army of ducks, like a massive army of ducks. This plant has even been found to grow atop wastewater, like literal sewage. Look at all that trash. Did you zoom in on that trash and pollution? So not only can it be used as a food source, it can be used to refine sewage water, wastewater, or what we call gray water. Gray water is anything caused from dishwashing, laundry machines, showering, anything that mixes soap or any other chemical into the water produces what's called gray water. When this plant sits on top of the water, it actually refines the water, almost like oysters do in a saltwater environment. Just by sitting and growing on the water's surface, chemicals and pollutants are cleansed, creating viable, recyclable water. So, how does this all relate? Theoretically, anyone can find a container, throw these plants in there, and grow duckweed to harvest the next day. But the question is, what if this process was refined to a technical science? An invention that could grow and produce this compound in the most efficiently conceivable way. Recently, a number of all-in-one compact biodome prototypes were unveiled. Developed by an aerospace engineer Rudy Behrens and the company Pacific Domes, they've conceived a multitude of designs. Industrial-scale constructions capable of powering farms, offices, apartments, schools, and factories. They're commercial. There he is right there, bro. He's about to blow by us. Their commercial unit, priced between $750,000 and $800,000, only takes 4 years to pay itself off. They also make another model that is capable of powering a single home silently. The domes are between 16 and 60 feet in diameter. Through a quiet multi-step system, plants are grown, harvested, dried, condensed, combusted, and recycled in the confines of one structure. When the lemna begins growing, a regular harvesting cycle is initiated, skimming the surface and squeezing the water from the plants. The heat from the generator is cycled past the collected matter, speeding up the process. Once dried, the biomass is pressed into these pellets nicknamed green coal. Green coal is the heart of this entire operation. It's a zero-emission fuel source. When ignited, the pellets emit water vapor and minute amounts of CO2, which are reconsumed by the next batch of growing plants. This green coal can be used in a variety of other ways than just powering your home. Fertilizer, landscaping material, animal feed, compost medium, and others can all be derived from this miracle pellet. Specially designed engines can also be introduced to utilize this fuel. Planes, cars, trains, cargo ships, and maybe one day even space travel could be powered by a plant no bigger than your finger. 3 things still stand in the way of this project, however. Administrative hurdles, HOA pushback, governmental regulations, and legislative inquiries. After all that, they still have to assure people that a dome growing little plants you can find in a dirty lake is worth spending your money on and growing more of. Which, if by a miracle, it makes it past all of this, there's still one thing standing in the way of this miracle plant from solving the world's problems. Corporations. Historically, either unknown or unquestioned by the average consumer, these slimy entities have lobbied to suppress voting rights, threatened, bought out, poached, polluted, privatized, and even killed those who stood in the way of profitability. Although for the good of humanity, it isn't for next year's estimated profit margins. If these biodomes were successfully implemented into today's society, these massive conglomerates and ultra-wealthy individuals in the globalized market would collectively lose trillions of dollars. Essentially, they would fade into obscurity as everyone in America would have a clean, renewable source of food, power, and clean drinking water. This project relates directly to the issue of global energy consumption as highlighted in our readings, specifically that of Jared Diamond. In his book, The Worst Mistake in the History of Humanity, Diamond illustrates his animosity for the globalized industrial agricultural system. He highlights low nutrient density foods, low variety in diet, and claims agriculture enforces gender boundaries. Farming may have encouraged inequality between sexes. Women tended to have more frequent pregnancies than their hunter-gatherer counterparts, often made beasts of burden. Yet, with these generators active, the gender norms are non-existent, as anyone can utilize this invention. Although, another reoccurring theme within his writings is a stark opposition to the dependence on oil and minerals that often must be imported from countries with poorer health and nutrition. Another point that is shot down by this biodome. Lastly, and most interestingly, Diamond enforces a 24-hour clock metaphor, in which the entirety of human existence takes place within a day, midnight being the downfall of humanity. He claims we lived as hunter-gatherers for nearly the whole of the day, and at 11:54 we adopted agriculture. It's arguable these biodomes could add hours to the intangible clock. The main arguments, although beautifully countered by the creation of these green generators, provide a great structure for the steps needed to be taken in the future. Guidelines to maintain and questions to ask ourselves along the way. Mainly, how will this affect the future?
Oh. No.